And I will say that out of all the marketing efforts that we do, actually LinkedIn, even though it is quite high in terms of it respective to the social media landscape and other ads there, it is much lower than any other marketing initiative that we do for a cost per lead. So I would say that it is a highly worth the investment. We get our highest amount of marketing qualified leads from LinkedIn.
Hello and welcome to the Healthtech Marketing Show. I'm your host, Adam Chirinas. I'm the CEO and founder of Health Launchpad. We're a healthcare IT growth marketing firm. Thank you to you for listening. And thank you also to the wonderful people at HIMSS for all the support that you've given us over the years with this podcast. Before we get into it, I want to make you an offer. I want you to think about me and think about Health Launchpad as a marketing therapist. Look, we all have tough marketing challenges that we're dealing with, particularly these days. And you know what? It's good to get an outside perspective. I've got coaches that I work with and people in my network who I'll reach out to get a perspective, bounce ideas off. And I'd like to suggest that you could think of us in the same way. And so if you've got a particular problem that you're dealing with, why don't you schedule a call with us? There's a link in the show notes to book a meeting with me. There's nothing for sale here. That's not a pitch. I just want to hear the challenges that you're going through and see if I can suggest some improvements or some ideas based on, other work that we're doing or other things that we're seeing. And you know what? It's always good to get an outside-in perspective. And I'd love to chat with you. On with today's show. And today is one of my favorite topics. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a little bit obsessed about LinkedIn. What we're going to focus on in particular today is paid LinkedIn advertising. And I know it's something that, all healthcare technology marketers do in some shape or form. But we're going to go deep on some tips and tricks from two people who've got some great perspectives on how to use LinkedIn effectively. One of them is a wonderful award-winning marketer called Valerie Stachewski from RxPx. And the other is my longtime colleague, Mr. Paul Vandra. Paul has probably forgotten more about how to use LinkedIn than I'll ever know. And he and Valerie are going to go deep on a lot of really smart ways to use LinkedIn. So let's go hear what Valerie and Paul have to say. I am so delighted to welcome Valerie and Paul to the show. So Valerie, I met, I can't remember, it was, we met in person at the wonderful Sway show. And so it's Valerie Stachewski, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Am I pronouncing it right? Yeah, good. All right.
Valerie, thank you so much.
And you are the Chief Marketing Officer of RxPx. And I don't think you'll mind me saying that you were recently honored by an award at Sway, which I was so delighted for you winning it Marketer of the Year for, it's a direct-to-patient campaign, or was it a campaign of the year? Tell us about the award.
I will tell you about the award. I'll show you because you got one yourself. So
Here's my award.
We're twins. Yeah. Sorry, Paul. Maybe next year. No,
yeah. Flanked by these two pink flames.
No, absolutely. This was almost one of the pleasures of my career to execute a campaign like this. We had developed an app in partnership with a large pharmaceutical organization for patients who are living with sickle cell. And sickle cell impacts about 70,000 to 100,000 individuals in the United States. So it's effectively considered a rare disease. And so this community or this app platform offered a very private appropriate and safe community for these individuals where they could connect with one another and share experiences, and also offered very critical information on therapy adherence and the importance of therapy adherence. And the brand had put this great idea to launch this app, but they didn't put a lot of thought behind how to promote it. And so there wasn't a strong uptake at the beginning. And so we came in with a 3-month direct to patient campaign to really demonstrate the impact that a program like this could have with individuals who are living with sickle cell. And we did this through very targeted social media ads, patient influencers, exclusive content from these influencers that was only available in the platform, and even hosted in-app events like lifestyle events like yoga and meditation. And it was really interesting to see that the influencers, who a lot of them had very strong followings on Instagram and Facebook, had the highest conversion rate getting new patients into the platform when they shared their exclusive content in the platform and also promoted it to their communities. And proud to say that we had in that 3-month period, we had a 66% user uptake, as well as reached 6,000 SCD patients. So it was really, really impactful.
Remarkable. Remarkable. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. That's just
Congrats.
fantastic.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
really impressive. So, Paul, you and I have been working together in what, like 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah,
Probably
coming up
feels like a
on
lot
4, I
longer.
think.
But anyway,
Mhm.
yeah, so tell everybody about yourself.
Yeah, I've been on the show a couple times, but my background, I've worked with a lot of startups. I have a background in digital marketing and with a particular focus on paid advertising within digital marketing. So anything from, LinkedIn advertising to programmatic advertising, and also do account director work for Health Launchpad as well. So yeah, I have been in the health tech marketing space for a few years now. Love it. Love the impact, and I love LinkedIn. So I'm excited for our topic today.
So let's get into it a bit. Valerie, tell me where LinkedIn and LinkedIn advertising fits into your marketing strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that it is a core component of our marketing strategy here. And I would say the reason for that, there's several reasons for that. For personally, I find that people on LinkedIn are still engaging with that platform in the same way that people used to engage on social media in the early days of social media. People are using LinkedIn. Really, our target audience is using LinkedIn. The people who were around in the early days of social media, and they're really looking for that same value from that social media platform that we used to get, or we thought we used to get, from Facebook and Twitter long before they became Meta and X. And it's my opinion, really, that LinkedIn is one of the only original social media platforms that has remained consistent with its original ethos and providing end user value and of what it offers to the end user. So I think that our core audience is there. And I know personally, and I'm sure you guys do, when I use LinkedIn, it's very easy for me to curate my feed. I get to see exactly what I want. I don't waste my time on there. And I find it personally very easy to block through the noise. Secondly, I think it's really still possible on LinkedIn to position people and organizations as thought leaders versus influencers. It seems that the goal on other platforms is to become an influencer. And there's nothing wrong with being an influencer on LinkedIn. There's some people who are doing it very effectively. But I don't know if you've heard of the subreddit
No.
LinkedIn Lunatics. Oh my gosh, go check it out. Because you can see people's efforts to become an influencer on that platform go really wrong really quickly. And then finally, I mean, our target audience is pharmaceutical executives, and it turns out that pharmaceutical executives are complete LinkedIn junkies, and they're there for the same reason we all are. It's a one-stop shop for seeing what's happening in the landscape, checking out competitors, seeing what vendors are doing, and obviously learning new things and networking.
So are you using it both as a paid channel and as an organic channel, or just
100
Whoa.
Yeah, 100%. We really focus on building up our organic page. We invest a lot in just standard blog content that we're posting daily, really leaning into National Health Days, celebrating our organization, the people within our organization, the incredible work that they do every single day. But of course, we do invest our time and resources into our organic feed, but also I would say 85% of our paid digital budget goes to LinkedIn.
Got it. Okay. So you're doing a lot of organic through the company page. Are you doing executives as well, or are the executives doing their own stuff, or is it just the company page?
Yeah, it's mainly the company page, and I've been really working with our executive team to help them brand themselves on LinkedIn. It's so important, and they love it too. So they've also been doing that as well.
And as far as paid digital is concerned, it's the lion's share of your budget goes on LinkedIn. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I
100%.
mean, do you mind me asking, like, what size of, what proportion of your budget goes on paid digital? Is it a large amount? Is it a small amount?
Yeah, I would say that it's probably, I would say 40% of our total.
No, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, so, a third to half your budget is going on paid LinkedIn. That's pretty
absolutely.
significant. Yeah,
Yeah.
Paul, so how do you think, I mean, you're working across half a dozen clients or so right now. We talk to many other companies. How do you think that sort of compares? I mean, what do you see as kind of a typical formula?
Yeah, I think that it's increasingly becoming a larger share of ad budgets, especially relative to digital ad budgets. And you can see it even in the marketplace. Like the healthcare space is one of the most competitive and the most expensive places on LinkedIn to be bidding, especially if you're trying to get to senior leadership at big healthcare organizations. These are some of the most sought after people on LinkedIn that you can try to find. And it reflects itself in the CPCs, right? The clicks can be expensive on LinkedIn, but I think people are just seeing that, to Valerie's point, people are really highly engaged on LinkedIn. And it's really easy to target just the people that you want to. So there's such little waste in your LinkedIn spend. You know that it's going to the places that you want it to go to, the people that you want to see the ads. So I do think that LinkedIn is a growing part of B2B marketers' budgets. And there's a little bit of a time there a few years back where I think people are a little bit disenfranchised with LinkedIn and they felt like it was overpriced. And now the market has swung back a little bit and people are starting to see the value and understanding how to leverage LinkedIn in a way to be able to get value from it. Even though if you compare it to a click on like Meta, or on Google or something like that, it's going to be more expensive than those platforms, but
Yeah.
it has to be approached from a different strategy than those platforms as well.
I think, one of the things I like about social as a paid and an organic channel is that compared to many other digital channels where you've just got essentially two metrics, views and clicks, right? That's about it. Whereas with social, broadly, the engagement as a measure, which is a bit vague, but that there's different components. I mean, actually, maybe you can break it down. What is an engagement on LinkedIn, on paid LinkedIn?
Yeah, so and the great thing about the ads platform is they'll give you detailed reporting on all of these kind of different types of engagement, right? So it can be anything from a video view to someone that is doing a traditional kind of interaction with the ad. So they're liking it, they're clapping it, they're hearting it. I think LinkedIn gives you 4 or 5 different ways that you can respond to the post. You can comment, obviously, you can repost, you can share it. And in the LinkedIn ads platform, you can see detailed reporting on all of those different types of engagements. So you have a real sense for not only how many people clicked on my ad, but are people interacting with it on the platform as well? And I think that's one of the things that we've really leaned into as an organization is that we find that a lot of the times we're getting more value from our budget when we're focused on having that interaction or that touch point happen on LinkedIn as opposed to trying to get someone off of LinkedIn onto our website.
Mm.
And LinkedIn's algorithm seems to be increasingly orienting itself towards keeping people on the platform. And so clicks that take you off the platform tend to be quite expensive. But if you think about it, if you have someone that watches a minute and a half of your video on LinkedIn, or they go to your landing page and they read 200 words on your landing page, those are pretty similar values. In a lot of ways, you could argue that the video view is just as valuable or even more valuable than reading that content on a landing page. So orienting yourselves toward, hey, what can we get to do people to do on LinkedIn, I think has been a real revelation for us and be able to maximize what we can get from the platform.
What's been your experience of that, Valerie?
I 100% agree that the costs are higher, but they are much more higher value. Exactly. I agree 100%. And I will say that out of all the marketing efforts that we do, actually, LinkedIn, even though it is quite high in terms of it respective to the social media landscape and other ads there, it is much lower than any other marketing initiative that we do for a cost per lead. So I would say that it is a highly worth the investment. We get our highest amount of marketing qualified leads from LinkedIn. And so I am completely aligned with everything that Paul's saying here as well.
So many regards, content is the currency of all marketing, particularly digital marketing in the space that we're in, and I think it plays an important role in your LinkedIn advertising. I mean, how do you approach that sort of the use of content and in LinkedIn, Valerie, and how does that affect your content strategy?
Yeah, I mean, it is content strategy is one of our largest investments that we put our time and resources in. And I would say really it's three categories that we really focus on. We put a lot of resources into our ebooks and they perform the highest out of any of the other types of pieces of content that we put out there. And that's really great for anybody who's produced an ebook, or at least a good one. Adam, I know that you've just put one out. You know how much time and effort it takes to produce a very, very good ebook. So we do get a really, really strong return from those. Second is case studies, obviously. And I don't think that this is anything new to anybody. However, case studies in our industry, they need to be really specific to therapeutic areas that we're targeting. So even though that they don't perform as well as a broadly applied piece of content, we still get a strong return out of them. And then I do kind of want to make a kind of a silly point, but I think it's really important to remember that no matter what types of content that you're developing, it's really the way that you're positioning that content and writing the associated ad copy for that content. And one thing I find that in our industry, people seem to get really serious and they forget that LinkedIn is still a social media platform that can be fun and we can lean into some of our sillier sides. We can use emojis. Healthcare buyers like emojis. We can play into the most recent trends that are going on. We can use FOMO. We can be cheeky and we can use bright creative to promote these rich pieces of content that we have. So I would really encourage individuals to not shy away from that, even though we are in quite a serious industry.
Yeah, give an example of that.
Of emojis?
Yeah. Or just something kind of like fun and like maybe a bit, kind of risky.
Sure. I mean, we did one, it was a holiday campaign, and this is a little bit risky, but we said, give your patients the gift of adherence this holiday season. And people clicked on it. And I was kind of like, is this kind of in poor taste? But people were like, no, I want to learn more. And so I think taking risks is really important. I mean, always ensure that, run it through your PR team and your media communications. But I think you can step outside of the box. And I think people are a little bit afraid to do that in our industry.
Yeah, I'll just
Yeah.
say I'll add to that too. Like, I think, especially in the healthcare space, a lot of the times there's this desire for everything just to be really buttoned up and polished and professional. And there's a place for that for sure. But a lot of the times on LinkedIn, the things that we find that perform the best are the things that are just more authentic, that they're more, grounded and like human interaction. And when we have like someone that's putting content out that just them recording themselves on their screen and talking over like a screen share can do just as well as like a really highly produced 2-minute explainer video that you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on, right? So it's like people want to see something that feels real, that feels authentic. And it's hard because the healthcare space is traditionally super buttoned up. But I think if we help our clients to kind of move and embrace that, there's a lot of value to be had from that.
So maybe you could talk through the different types of formats and how they perform relative to each other.
Yeah, so that's a cool thing about LinkedIn is that you can do lots of different things with these different ad formats that they had available. So like, for example, we really lean on video content, so video ads and thought leader ads for awareness and education type campaigns. And we find that when it comes to those two ad formats, and just to clarify, thought leader ads are ads that you're promoting that are from an individual rather than a company. So what you can do with this is you can have someone on the leadership team at that company that's posting, and then you're boosting that post. Or you could have a client of yours that's posting about you, and then you're boosting it to their peers, which is a really powerful way to leverage this ad format. So, but these thought leader and video ads, what they tend to see is the click-through rates are a little bit lower, the clicks are a little bit more expensive, but the engagement rates are a lot higher. And then on the other formats, like the image ads or the carousel ads, or the lead gen ads, the clicks tend to be a little bit less expensive than some of these other formats, but the engagement isn't quite as high, right? So what we'll generally do is use the more traditional video or lead gen type ad formats when we're trying to drive people to take action. And then we're trying to build awareness and engagement. We're using more video and thought leader content.
Yeah. Valerie, what's been your experience? Can you talk a little bit about the mix that you use?
Yeah, I would say that, carousel video ads, they're definitely very, very high impactful for us. But I would like to say talk a little bit about personalization, and if we could, when we can personalize our ads regardless of the type of creative that we're using, or even, I mean, you can personalize a video piece of creative or an ebook piece of creative. So I would say anything that we're doing around personalization, that's
How,
where we're getting.
yeah, drill down on that bit. What does personalization look like on LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, from my perspective, there's a couple ways that we do it. First, in terms of our content strategy, it's something that we are able to do simply by, I'll give you an example of one of our highest performing ebooks. It was called Delivering Exceptional Patient Value, a guide for brand executives. And what we were able to do is tweak that last little bit on the asset as well and create several streams of that asset targeted to different job roles. So a guide for marketing managers, a guide for patient support executives, and then we can target those ads specifically to those job functions. And so something like that, I think that LinkedIn makes it really easy for us to do personalization like that. You make just a small tweak with your major asset and it can go 10 times further than it would have if it was just generic. And then also, I mean, obviously playing into some of the most recent trends and whatnot, other ebooks and assets that we've created, you want your content itself to break through the noise of all the content noise. So last year, AI was a really big buzzy noise topic. And so we created our ebooks around breaking down AI, what it means for brand executives, and again, tweaking that job title and sending it out that way.
So just to make sure I'm sort of summarizing it and understanding it correctly, what you're describing here is, so if you could have same piece of content, but tailored for, say, a CFO versus a marketing audience versus maybe a clinical person, and just tweaking the message and maybe tweaking the content as well so that it's specific to their persona.
Yes.
Yeah. And then using LinkedIn to say, run this ad just to these roles or titles,
Mhm.
and say, and run the other ones to the other roles and titles. That's what you're describing, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly it. That's
Yeah. Got
exactly
it.
it.
Yeah. And can you share anything in terms of how that performs relative to content, which is more generally across, not personalized?
80% better.
80%
Yeah,
better. Yeah.
truly. Honestly,
Yeah.
personalization, LinkedIn is such a wonderful platform for enabling personalization at scale. So, I mean, we all see personalization track. So, yeah, absolutely lean into that 100%.
That's the thing with LinkedIn is that if that personalization pays at every level of the journey, right? Because if you have really personalized ads, the click-through rates are going to be higher, which means your clicks are going to be less expensive. You have more volume that's available to you. And then the experience is better. You're sending them to a landing page that's curated, so the conversion rates are going to be better. So like that persona-based personalization has massive impact on the overall ROI of the campaigns because you're getting benefits across the whole experience from the ads all the way to the conversion, right? And so it's hugely important. I mean, if you look back 40 years ago of around like what advertisers were forced to do, what we have the luxury to be able to target from a persona level on LinkedIn and these other platforms, it's an incredible advantage. And it's something that we just really have to take advantage of.
Let's shift gears and talk a little bit about the buyer journey. So, I mean, Paul, you were kind of intimating about, certain tactics work well for awareness and others for conversion. Can you kind of talk about the way that you structure programs, campaigns? I guess it's broader than campaigns, right? It's programs, so that we've got different messaging or different tactics for the buyers at different stages of the journey.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what we're trying to do is, and you could do this within LinkedIn pretty easily based off of the retargeting that they make available on LinkedIn. So you can essentially put people into different buckets based off of the interactions that they've had with your ads. And so really what we're trying to do at each stage is establish a set of goals, right? So in the awareness stage, really what we want them to do is know who we are and what we do, right, as a company. And that's really what the goal is. And the way that you can track that is, have they watched more than 50% of an ad? Have they been clicking on the ads and going to the landing page? So once they take those actions, they then move into a separate bucket of contacts that are within the greater ICP, but are now engaged that have engaged with your ad campaigns. And then those are the ones that you can start serving, more mid-funnel type campaigns, trying to get them white papers or case studies, things like that, that are adding value, getting them to be able to become even more familiar with what it is that your brand is offering. And then you can move the last group, which is people that are engaging with those ads, into essentially a conversion campaign where you're offering them, a demo or RFP templates, things like that, that are more like closely aligned with getting someone that's ready to talk to the sales team. And so what we're trying to do is essentially move people through those stages on LinkedIn and tracking their engagement with the ads and making sure that the content is reflective of what they may already know about you and what their experience is with you, so that they're getting ads that are more curated based off of their relationship with you.
Valerie, do you have similar experiences with that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I do. And I think we even take it a step back further too. We can discuss how we kind of break it down from brand awareness, engagement, and lead generation. And obviously, when it comes to brand awareness, we're having those campaigns running consistently. And that's really to open up the top of the funnel and really optimize and refine our target lists. So, one thing I will say is that I really feel like LinkedIn can't just be a splash in the pan or flash in the pan type of initiative. It's something that if you want to nail down your audience, if you want to nail down your target list, if you really want to optimize and get the strongest return, you have to have at least one kind of campaign running in the background at all time to help build that funnel and make sure you're capturing the best of the best. And then secondly, when we move to kind of our engagement style campaigns, that's really where we're trying to help create that surround sound system effect for our sales team and mimic the messaging that they're having with their discussions with their customers or potential customers in the pipeline. So we want to ensure that what we're saying in our engagement campaigns is reflective of their discussions. And then obviously our lead generation campaigns, that's where we're, here's the conversions we're looking for, here's the content we're creating. Let's get you right in at the top.
That was amazing from both of you. It's kind of a fire hose of how you set up a campaign. And just so you know, and in particular for anybody listening, is that what we do with these episodes is we'll go and break them down. And so if there's a link in the bottom of the post in the show notes to a post which sort of breaks this down into actionable insights. So you're probably feeling a bit like me, which is you've just listened to Paul and Valerie talk about how the way they structure campaigns. You're feeling like, wow, I feel a bit overwhelmed by this. Well, fear not. There'll be a link down below where you can actually say, okay, got it. Now I actually know what I can do to set these campaigns up myself. Yeah, Valerie, one of the things I know you're a big proponent of is A/B testing. Tell us a little bit about how you do that on LinkedIn.
I mean, it's certainly just like in any marketing campaign, you definitely need to A/B test. I'm sure, Paul, and that's how you live and breathe. And for us, it's really understanding the emotional journey of our buyer persona and continually switching up our subject lines, our messaging, and optimizing. I think one thing that a lot of maybe the budget holders don't understand is that it's pretty much a full-time job, is just staying on and refining and optimizing. So the more you can A/B test, it's not just a one-time thing. You have to keep A/B testing. You have to keep doing. You have to have as many. I don't know the analogy right now, but in the fire. What I don't know, but out there as much as possible to make sure that you're catching. Because again, to Paul's point, it's an expensive platform, and so you need to make sure that your messaging is hitting. So A/B testing is absolutely.
How do you set up an A/B test? Give an example, because it's like, I know I have to say it's one of the things that I think a lot of people say we've got to do A/B testing, and it's like they don't really do it because it's like, oh, you know what, it's too hard. We'll do it next time. How do you do that? How do you set up an A/B test?
For us, we're having ads running simultaneously and really just trying new messages. And honestly, as much as we don't want to say just kick it over to AI. AI can be your friend. I mean, it really can be. Lean into it. Don't be too scared of it. Make sure you have your personal brand touch to it. But AI will help you set up new titles, new subjects, new messages at scale. So that's really how we're doing it.
Using AI to say, okay, here's our core message. Give me some other messages to test it against. Is that right?
Absolutely. And also against your buyer persona. And you can get pretty specific with your buyer persona. And because we have so many.
And how do you, what system do you use for testing it? Is it using HubSpot, or how do you do that?
Yep, we use HubSpot. We have a HubSpot integration with our LinkedIn, and that's very, very helpful. But also, LinkedIn has a really good platform itself. So, LinkedIn has an amazing dashboard for marketers and advertisers. There's so much there. So, I would almost say we get more out of that than we do out of HubSpot. I don't know, Paul, if you feel the same.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think LinkedIn kind of allows you to test anything, right? So you can test what Valerie's talking about, which is really ads, right? And ads have a huge impact on performance. And so it's something that's really, I think, one of the most important things to be testing. But we also are testing things like, which persona is responding better, right? If you set up a campaign that's targeting a specific persona and then another campaign targeting another one, where are the leads coming from? Where's the engagement coming from? Because not everyone has a perfect sense of what their ICP truly is. And it could be a moving target too. Like maybe this department was really driving the investigation previously, but now it's starting to shift to another department. And if you're not testing those things, it can be difficult to identify those trends. And so I think pretty much everything that's a variable that can be set up as a way to target or a way to put ads in front of people is able to be tested. And it's important to continue to iterate. And to Valerie's point too, with the ads is they get stale fast, right? If you put an ad in front of someone, especially if you're targeting a pretty refined audience and you're trying to be aggressive and getting a lot of impressions with that audience, they're going to start ignoring you and stop clicking on them very quickly. So
Mhm.
the same ad that could have a really strong click-through rate 3 weeks later could be starting to plummet quite a bit. So it requires a constant upkeep to ensure that the ads are staying fresh. Because if your click-through rates start to dip, if the engagement starts to dip, then you start to see that from the performance and the ROI. So you need to stay up on top of it.
So I've got a two-part question, which sort of builds on what you were just talking about there, Paul, which is the role of LinkedIn in account-based marketing and ABM. So I think it's generally well regarded that in B2B, particularly in our space, that LinkedIn is kind of an engine of ABM. But the second part of it is there's a lot of people that sort of get confused of thinking, well, I'm doing LinkedIn advertising, so I'm doing ABM. Like, where does that end? And what are the missing parts that make it like not ABM?
Yeah. Well, I think ABM is a term that is open enough that people have a lot of different definitions for it. But I think definitely for me, if you're buying LinkedIn ads and you're targeting a specific subset of accounts, you're doing account-based advertising, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing traditional ABM, right? And so from my perspective, account-based advertising using platforms like LinkedIn is a leg of account-based marketing, but it's not the full table, right? And so in order to be doing ABM that's more effective, you would need to be doing a true multi-channel approach in order to reach those accounts on other channels, right? So this involves sales as well. It involves all the other traditional marketing channels that marketing teams use to reach into accounts. And the idea is with account-based marketing is you're choosing a subset of accounts that you really want to surround and that you really want to have an impact within. And LinkedIn is a great tool to get in front of those accounts and the buyers at those accounts, but not everyone's active on LinkedIn. And not every account is going to be as active as others, and it's just one platform, right? So you really need to be doing more outside of LinkedIn if you want to truly have an ABM approach where you feel like you're doing true multi-channel ABM with the biggest impact into those target accounts.
But Paul, do you think that you can do ABM without LinkedIn?
It's going to be harder. I think it's a tool that it's such a powerful tool for ABM that it feels like a very low-hanging fruit.
There's different flavors of ABM, and the granddaddy of all ABM is one-to-one ABM, where it's like, let's say, the prospect you're going after, Valerie, is Pfizer, where you can be going after different conditions, different disease states, different groups within Pfizer, or Paul in healthcare going after Ascension. And, that's so massive. And you're doing one-to-one ABM with that. If you were just going after one account, would you use LinkedIn for that?
It would be less of an imperative for sure, but I think you could potentially still use it. But with the minimum audience sizes and things like that you need to have in LinkedIn, then it's a little bit different of a story. But yeah, I mean, to your point, like the ideal marketing is to sell to one person, right? You could do is everything would be ultra personalized if you only need to sell to one person. Most of the time, we don't have that luxury as marketers. We tend to have to be able to scale it in a way that we're talking to multiple companies at once. So I think once you reach a certain kind of threshold of audiences, which is a pretty small threshold, LinkedIn becomes a very valuable tool. I think almost every situation, it's something that can be leveraged.
Valerie, would you use it for just like one account?
I think that because of the size of the organizations that we target, we typically we can. So I would, and we can get, again, really granular as we spoke about before with the job titles and then the personalization. So in terms of ABM for our industry, it can be a little bit tricky because people in our industry move around so much, but I would say that we have to have it. We do have to have it. And I think we can do it with one account, just again, due to the massive size of the individuals who work at a single organization.
I think that's great. You've given me a lot to think about. So as we bring this one to a close, any final tips that you've got, sort of like 1, 2, 3 tips for anybody listening? Valerie, you want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. So maybe kind of just recap some of the things that I think are really important. Remain consistent with your brand awareness campaigns. Don't give up on them too early. I know LinkedIn is expensive, but you'll optimize, you'll reduce your cost per click the longer you have those run it and refine and optimize your campaigns, your messaging, your target audience. Leverage personalization as much as possible. It's super critical. You'll get a high return, and LinkedIn makes it really easy. We didn't even talk about the personalized message ads that you can do. Check them out. It's very, very powerful for us. Always remember what you want to get out of in exchange for your time on social media. You want quality, you want quantity, especially during your work day. Essentially, it's like where people who work go to have a little bit of fun, but they still are exchanging their very valuable time. So make sure that you're delivering them quality with every single click, or post, or campaign. And then just to kind of reiterate again, be cheeky, have fun, test new things. Emojis and data, it's an excellent, powerful combination. So yeah, that's where I'll leave it.
Super helpful. Paul?
Yeah, so these are going to be pretty specific, but there's a couple things that I see happen a lot in LinkedIn accounts for people that aren't as familiar with the platform that can have really big impacts on performance. So one is that when you launch a campaign, generally it defaults to an audience expansion feature where you put in the accounts that you want to target, the job titles you want to target. The audience expansion feature allows LinkedIn to decide the people that they think are similar to that audience. Now, I haven't had a lot of luck with allowing LinkedIn to have that level of control over my campaigns, and I tend to turn that off almost all the time because I want to be able to know exactly where my ads are going to the people at the accounts that I want to be able to target specifically. The other thing is the LinkedIn Audience Network. So LinkedIn also has a platform where you can serve ads off of LinkedIn, but you're still placing those ads on LinkedIn. You're buying them through the LinkedIn Ads Manager. And the LinkedIn Audience Network is traditionally kind of seen as a black hole where advertising budgets go to die. But we've found that there's a way to use the LinkedIn Audience Network in a way that provides still good return and quality clicks. And what we use something called an allow list, where we put a list of domains. So LinkedIn, the Audience Network, posts all the websites that they're going to make your ads eligible to serve on. We've curated that list to a couple hundred of those domains that are high value websites, like the CNNs, the good websites that are out there. And so you only allow your ads to serve on those websites. And the traffic that you get from those is high quality traffic from people that are still within your target audience. So the LinkedIn Audience Network, need to be careful with it, but it can provide some value if you have some ability to use it in a way that's more targeted. And then the last thing is use the recommendation around multiple ads. So they recommend having 4 to 5 ads per campaign. If you don't do that, you're limiting the number of impressions that your campaign can serve because they allow how many times a single ad can get in front of a user during a period of time. So if you only upload 1 ad into your campaign, and you say, why am I not getting enough impressions or clicks? It's because you need to put more versions of that ad into the campaign, or else you're limiting the amount of available impressions that the campaign can serve. So those are just 3 kind of low-hanging opportunities to maybe optimize some campaigns that are a little bit more specific.
That's wonderful from both of you. I really appreciate that you took the time to really think through some very specific, actionable tips that people can put into practice immediately. And if you're sitting there thinking, oh God, I got to go back and listen to it again, take notes, don't worry, just go down below, click on the link in the show notes, and you can read the article, which will actually turn what Valerie and Paul said into specific actions for you. So Valerie and Paul, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for being transparent and providing the level of detail and granularity. This was anything but a sort of a kind of vague general conversation about LinkedIn. I really appreciated that you got very, very deep on the topic. So with that, I will bid you farewell and thank you to Paul and Valerie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so my head is swimming after everything I just heard. I think if you're like me and you want to kind of go back over it, what you might want to do is click on the link to the article below, because what we've done is taken the recording here, the transcription, and we've turned it into a long form article, which is hyper actionable. So, there's a lot in there. Here are 3 key takeaways I took away. So number 1, if you want to personalize at scale, figure out a way to target people based on job titles and tailor messaging according to the different personas. So you might have the same message running for the same campaign, but if you're running against 3 different personas through 3 different job titles, have 3 different ads for them. According to Valerie, it improved the effectiveness of her campaigns by 80%. The other thing is use the algorithm to your advantage. LinkedIn wants people to stay on LinkedIn. So structure your campaigns to keep people on LinkedIn as much as possible, particularly in the awareness phase. The third thing is you've got to have 3 to 4 variations of your message, 3 to 4 different ads running at the same time. And the reason is you've got to avoid wear out. The other thing is it also provides the opportunity to do A/B testing, which a lot of people talk about, but we always kind of like figure out we'll do it. Maybe we'll do it next campaign. So that's one way you can really do A/B testing as easily as possible. 3 things to leave you with. Number 1, again, check out the article in the link below. It's designed to help you take action on what you've just heard for the last 30 minutes or so. Second thing is, if this is the first time you're listening to this episode, why don't you subscribe? You can subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe on Apple or Spotify or one of the million other podcast applications out there. And then the last thing is share it with your friends. There may be other people in your network who will love some of the tips that Paul and Valerie had to share. So, why don't you email it to them? So with that, I will bid you farewell and hope to have you listen in or watch our next episodes.